Hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to my YouTube channel on this Thursday of a never-ending week, August the 8th, 2019. I honestly thought today I would get away with a much easier day than yesterday with the severe weather that I had to deal with. And at least it looked like it was going to be more in northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York. But the southern end of that line held up actually a whole lot better than the northern part of the line, which it was supposed to be the opposite. But this happens sometimes. And one of the things that today, the dew points this morning, I thought the dew points would have gotten down into the mid-60s, and instead they were running much higher than that. It was rather humid today, and this trough and shortwave, not a half bad looking trough and shortwave coming through. There were some pop-up storms. They didn't really amount to much this afternoon. They were few and far between, so I thought we were out of the woods for my area. Now, it's all pretty much from just north of New York City, north and northwest. The areas that got hit hard yesterday were from New York City, Long Island, down through much of New Jersey, but not the northern part of the state, not so much the northern part of the state. Today, and Hudson Valley also didn't get very much out of yesterday. Today, we flip it around, and it's really more toward the north. So let me start off, and we're going to take a look at some current radars. And always remember, folks, it is 7:04 Eastern Time, and we are, of course, what you'll be looking at if you're watching this on a replay, it's dated, so be sure to check your local radars and the local National Weather Service forecast page by going to weather.gov so you make sure you have the latest weather information. So we started out with an area of slight risk for western Pennsylvania into Ohio and through New York State, and we now wind up with slight risk through eastern New York and down almost to about New York City, northern and northwest New Jersey into northeastern Pennsylvania. And you can kind of make out the radar echoes, not that well, but I got some local shots that we can look at with a marginal risk down into central New Jersey. I know Izzy D, one of the regulars here, was asking me earlier today if he was going to get a pop-up where he lived in New Jersey, a thunderstorm where he lived in New Jersey, and I said, oh, well, only if you get a pop-up. Well, guess what? You got a pop-up late this afternoon. It was actually about an hour or so ago where we had a thunderstorm split in two. Severe thunderstorm warning gets put up for parts of Monmouth and Ocean counties, and pretty much just as the warning got out, those storms came so quickly, they come and go so quickly, that as soon as you put the warning out, the storm reached its peak, and within 20 minutes, it was gone. But nonetheless, here are your severe weather risk areas today. Small area of marginal risk down in the lower Mississippi Valley, and an area of marginal risk up from northeast New Mexico, northwest Texas, up through eastern Colorado and in through eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, and a small portion of South Dakota. So why don't we go right to the radar views, and we'll take a look at, we'll look at the Northeast Regional Radar, if I can ever get this page widened out. Okay, so here's that. Here are the storms. This radar, the last frame of this is 12. Let's see. The last frame is 22:18. That is actually 45 minutes ago. These radars sometimes don't update as quickly as they should, but you can actually see the echoes. That northern part was probably a bit less impressive than the southern part. Now we're at, okay, got it to 22:48, so that's a bit better. But there's your southern end, that little tail that survived, now in northwest Jersey and moving eastward. You also had some pretty strong storms flare up just as they approached the Massachusetts-New York state line, and we've got warnings up. We had warnings up. They may still be up for parts of western Mass and into northwest Connecticut. So why don't we take a look at what's happening on the local radars. We'll freshen this up, and we do have, some of these yellow boxes you see. Those are severe thunderstorm warnings. This is the Fort Dix radar, and there's your southern tail end. Looks like those storms are pretty strong right now in northwest Jersey. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that has been put up for I'm going to say Morris, parts of Warren and Sussex, and on up into possibly Passaic County. I'm just kind of eyeballing it here, and I'm probably going to have to take care of this in a few minutes with the crawl, so I may have to cut the live stream short tonight. Okay, so that's the Fort Dix radar view. Here is the view from Upton, and you can see a lot of warnings up through the Hudson Valley, on up into western Connecticut, and then continuing up, as we said, up into western Massachusetts. Looks like the storms in Massachusetts seem to have weakened a bit, but they may flare up again. It's barely kind of funny watching them yesterday, where we had powerful storms that moved through the northeastern part of New Jersey, and then they weakened really rapidly when they got to me. I'm just northeast of there, and then they strengthened again once they got north of me from Route 84 northward. So all of this moving right along. I'm going to take another radar jump further north, so you see for the folks in New England with some strong storms now popping up in parts of southern New Hampshire and Vermont, and that line is moving eastward. So very quickly, unfortunately, I'm going to have to keep this short. I want to run through a couple of things with the weather pattern going forward. So clearly we know that after tonight, with this shortwave trough going by, we should be done. And you can see it here swinging through eastern Canada. There's an arm that's coming through and around. It's kind of a broad trough, but nonetheless a fairly good, solid shortwave that's moving through with this cold front. And we have a weaker shortwave that's going to try to come through here on Friday, maybe produces a few clouds, and on Saturday the same, especially in New England. But that is a pretty cold upper air profile that we're seeing across the U.S. For this time of year. This is actually quite impressive. It's been quite a few summers that we, in my memory, it's been quite a few summers to see something like this. And somebody mentioned this to me yesterday, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. This summer feels particularly like the kinds of summers that I went through in the 70s and early 80s, where you had a lot of weather fronts that came through every couple of days, and the southern part of the upper air westerly winds would occasionally get all the way as far south as Georgia and northern Florida. Then they would pull out, of course. But this summer has been pretty interesting. It does remind me of the summers I had when I was a kid, when I was much younger. Now, the trough partially pulls out, but you still have this endless northwest flow. You can thank that blocking signature that we have up in Greenland and across the North Pole. And that trough in the east gets amplified a bit toward the end of next week. So it's still here. And going into the long range, we're at day 10 and 11, finally seeing it pull out somewhat, and we're getting, the models keep seeming to want to take us into some sort of a ridge position here toward the end of the forecast period. But it has been doing that for a while, not on every run, but on perhaps every other run. So I'm a little bit suspect of it. Remember, the trend is always your friend. So until proven otherwise, we're just going to kind of go with the flow here. Now, the next thing to worry about, in my view, is going to be on Tuesday. Tuesday into Wednesday, because clearly we have no problems to speak of other than patchy clouds. New England seeing maybe up in northern New England some instability showers with that upper low, but it looks fine and dandy. This high is going to be with us. I think this will be, for many areas in the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic, it'll probably be the best weekend of the whole summer. High moves offshore. Now, watch this wave along about Monday, starts to push eastward and arrives now on Tuesday. The models seem to be a bit faster with this. This is very similar. This is similar to what we've been seeing, and we had something like this where a low was shown to go by to the south of New York City, only to wind up going just to the north of New York City, and it created this warm sector. This is back a few weeks ago, and we wound up with another pretty nasty round of severe weather. So if you want to believe this, this particular late run of the GFS actually wants to, you'll turn very warm and humid on Monday, and it looks like we'll be getting to some showers and thunderstorms here on Tuesday. Now, it might be a little bit fast But when I have a little more time to take it to analyze this, I'll get a bit more specific. My original idea was that this was going to be more later Tuesday into Wednesday, but this run seems to have sped it up. But the bottom line is, it's still a similar outcome where you're going to probably have to. Someone's going to get into a warm sector with this, and we're going to see some severe weather someplace. And then after that goes by, you get high pressure that goes up into southeastern Canada with a northeast wind for the latter part of next week. So that might actually hold temperatures back. Another front comes through toward the end of the week and into next weekend. So as long as we keep that with that trough in the east, we are going to see, it's wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. Now, I want to bring up the tropics. I put a link up on the chat for you. NOAA came out with their updated forecast. And if you think back on and off back in July, we talked about the fact that I think I even showed it on one of the live streams. The El Nino was very weak, and it was perhaps signaling that activity in the Atlantic might pick up later on, and that the El Nino was probably going to disappear. In fact, the Weather Service today declared the El Nino dead, and they put out an updated forecast. Again, you have the link on the chat. Otherwise, you can just Google NOAA hurricane forecast. They are going for an increasing chance for an above-average season in the Atlantic Basin. And I think it makes sense based on the El Nino going to a neutral. Now, whether the atmosphere needs time to play catch-up on this, I don't know. But we are at August 8th. We've had 2 named storms. Nothing is in the cards here. When you look at the loop, it's pretty much the same story that we had yesterday. There were some weak tropical waves. We still have wind shear issues. Although I mentioned and we noticed a few days ago that the wind shear was going to relax across much of the tropical Atlantic during the latter part of this week and through this weekend. I haven't given the latest models a check to see what they were doing. We had a couple of instances of a few runs showing a couple of weak systems along the way. Just really quick, just to run the GFS. I have a feeling that you're going to see something pop up sometime in the next 2 weeks somewhere, and that I wouldn't necessarily rely on models to pick up on this. I think one of the areas you may want to watch toward the latter part of the month is probably, since we keep getting these fronts to come through in the east, I think you have to pay attention to whether one of these frontal boundaries may eventually stall out, and that you might get something what people often refer to as homegrown to form perhaps in the off the southeast coast or somewhere in the southwest Atlantic. By the way, if you look at this run closely, just follow the green shaded areas in the northwest Caribbean toward the end of around day 11 or 12. There's obviously some kind of tropical wave in the northwest Caribbean that goes into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. A couple of runs ago, the model picked up on that. But look, the bottom line is to me that you're gonna the normalization of ocean water temperatures in the Pacific has a big impact on activity in the Atlantic. I would not draw any conclusions over the fact that it's August 8th and it's still pretty quiet. So we certainly could certainly have plenty of time to see a bunch of storms develop. So we'll watch to see. But I think sometime maybe after we're done with this week, but we get past the 15th, I think you're going to see one of these situations where you're going to wake up one day and suddenly there are going to be 2 or 3 tropical storms running around in the Atlantic Basin. But right now, it's just a big snooze fest. So just very quickly say hi to everybody. And Chuck Cardillo, you had a tree fall on your car. Thank God you're all right and your wife's all right. So that's a good thing. You had a little car damage, but that will be fixed. So thankful for that you're all right. Happening in a thunderstorm apparently. Wife is cranky. Lady did not like the 2 morning thunderstorm showers last night. Can't keep them happy. Don't even try, Robert. Got my rental house back in service today, and that's a plus. Good. Always good to get things done. All right, there was one other thing I wanted to mention in the back of my mind, but I guess I'm losing it today, folks. These I have to tell you, as mentally drained as I usually get with dealing with winter storms, it's a little different than when you deal with severe weather, because you have to deal with the frustration of these severe thunderstorm warnings that come and go every 5 minutes, and it's really tough. So I'm just going to check really quick one last time. But again, warnings are now up for the North Jersey counties. They've been taken down for parts of the Hudson Valley. They're back up for northwestern Connecticut and up into Massachusetts. So I got to go take care of this. All right, folks, have a great rest of your evening. We'll see what happens tomorrow. If the weather looks really quiet and there's not much going on, I might just take the Friday off. But I'll let you know. You'll see. You'll get the warning post and the notification that a live stream is coming. And, of course, there will be a Weather in 5 tomorrow morning, so look for that. Have a nice night, everybody. Good night.